Welcome to the Pursuit of Myself, the podcast. Here we take ownership of our healing. We rewrite the rules, we turn knowledge into wisdom, and we lead our lives with intention. I'm your host, Rayne, and it's my mission to empower you to get back into the driver's seat of your life. Welcome back to the Pursuit of Myself podcast. I am your host, Rayne, and today I am going to take you through something that's really, really close to my heart. Could be the actual missing piece to the puzzle that you've been looking for. Just with this little bit of information, it might all start to make sense. But first of all, I want you to consider, what if your own authentic journey could actually be your superpower? What if you could build a life where you are living from your heart, not from your people pleasing, not from your fear, not from your expectations of others, not from what everyone else wants from you? What if you could lead your life from your heart? Now, I know that could be a concept that is like way out there, but if you are especially in the midst of considering how to rebuild your life from the ashes upwards, then this is something that you actually have to listen to. We're going to talk about how not to give in to the fear, how to stop people pleasing, how to choose yourself, how to let go, how to know your worth, everything that you desire, how to love yourself, which could be a concept that feels so far out there, but it is possible for you. Okay, so authenticity, how you appear to be versus who you really are. So how we show up to the world versus what our heart actually desires and who we actually are. And this can feel so far away from each other. But we put on this mask to keep relationships, to build businesses. We put on this mask and it affects our physical health. It affects our financial health. But authenticity is the soul's language of who we are, who you would be without your programming, without your conditioning, without your pain, your traumas, and your shame. So we go through so much in life, and then so many of these events, we make them mean about us. And we start to move away from who we actually are, and we start to operate from a place of pain, shame, and programming. So when it comes to authenticity and when we try and tap into that, it's like, how do we tap into the heart when we have all these layers that have come upon us, that avoid us, that block us, that stop us from actually getting clarity on what we want and who we are? Essentially, what happens is you're in a child, things that happen to you as a child, as a teenager, it gets in the driver's seat. Your shadow, your shame and guilt get in the driver's seat. And this eventually becomes our personality. So you think about it like perfectionism, people pleasing, worrying about what other people think. We become really controlling. We don't know how to say no. We have deprecating self-stories and we sabotage ourselves. So when we are out of touch with our own wants and desires, we come up against roadblocks continuously through our life. When we give in to the fear, when we people please, when we seek validation and to belong, the fear is driving you and not your soul. So to actually get back to your soul, the work is in unpacking who is actually in charge here. What is in charge and what is making the decisions moving forward in my life? Why does this happen? Well, our ego is trying to keep us safe, and it's trying to protect us so that we belong, so that we can keep the relationship, so that we can stay in that job just because of the money. The lens of life that we start to look through, which are our past experiences, are shaping our present moment. And of course, if it's shaping our present, it is deciding how we experience the world in the future. So the ego will have you self-sabotage to keep you in your story. If we are self-sabotaging, then there's that part of you that feels unworthy of what you are trying to create, fearful even of what might actually come if you do that thing. It is very, very clever. And this is what kept me stuck for so long. We use our own personal life experiences to tell stories which make up our current reality. And we cling to those stories and we make it mean, this is who I am. You can have 10 people watching the same event and everyone will have a different idea on what went on, because the reality is everyone is going to see that one event differently. Everyone is going to see it from their own lens of what their life, what their belief systems are, what their programming is. Reality is what individuals think about an experience. We can all perceive reality differently according to those experiences. So, what is the work? The work is in understanding ourselves and our experiences so we can shift the lens to an authentic one. So, why is this the most important piece of the puzzle? Because this is literally what shifted me out of rock bottom, out of complete and utter burnout, so that I could start rebuilding my life. And I'll tell you something really seriously. When you know yourself deeply, you get to lead from this place. You get to lead from your heart. And the fulfillment in that is something that I will never, ever abandon in my life again. There really is a freedom in trusting how your own story will play out. So this journey has been a hard journey for me, but also a really magical one. It feels like a bit of a windy road, and I think that's just exactly what life is. But once you realize through falling into the breakdown and then seeing the evidence of the breakthrough that comes after that energetically comes once you have moved through this fear, you know that there's a much bigger energy at play. There is something looking over saying, come on, you can do this. You can step up. You can step through this, because sometimes we need to break down so that we can break through into the life that was actually meant for us. And when life literally feels like it's crashing all around you, your relationship is over, your friends can't relate to you anymore, they abandon you. Well, that's what it feels like. You have no money, you are not sure where you're going to live, right? It takes, even me, I'm deep breathing now because it's a fucking horrible place to be. And I just, as much as I want to say I never want to go back there, I have to look at some of the things that happened as a gift, because would I be where I am today if I wasn't able to pull myself through? I don't know. When you're in it, when you're living it, it takes up your whole life. I moved from feeling trapped by one kind of life to literally feeling trapped in this breakdown of another type of life. And I really want you to hear me when I say this. With the right support, if this is where you're at right now, you will slowly but absolutely start to move through your breakdown. When you do, when you discover that actually there was a bigger energy at play, something else was meant for you. This was meant to be your path. But you know what? You actually just have to walk it. And I had to walk it being unapologetic. I had to walk it very freaking messily, but I had to walk it. No one was going to save me, and no one was going to do this for me. And the evidence post all of my breakthroughs, no matter how small or how big they are, is that the more authentic I become walking my path, the more me that I bring into this world, the universe actually helps me blossom. And it really does have my back. So all the traumas, the lessons, and the breakdowns, they suddenly became, or I was able to suddenly see them as gifts. I get it, not in that moment, but reflecting back, these gifts have actually given me my breakthroughs. So there are a few reasons for this, and it was not by sitting back and doing nothing. So how I got through was not by second guessing and judging my choices. I mean, look, yes, I'm human. That did creep in. I did second guess and I did judge myself, and I am my harshest critic. But I got to a point where what I didn't do was grab onto all those thoughts and let those thoughts ruminate and rule my mind and my actions. And this is the place where I see people get stuck so deeply, is just allowing themselves to make their thoughts mean that's who they are. When we understand that our thoughts are really just keeping us in that bubble and we get to choose them or not, then we get to have the self-awareness around what are they actually trying to tell me. had to rebuild from the inside out. And this requires us to stop spinning our wheels in shame, in guilt. My inner narrative was like, you are wrong, you've done bad. And my nervous system was responding to that. But I also could recognize it and start moving through that. We have to feel to move through this. So I just want to say, if you are at rock bottom, how do you even know you're there? Are you pretending to be fine? Pretending that surviving in your overwhelm and in your disconnection is normal? Or are you gripping on to dear hope that whatever you're feeling isn't actually happening around you and sticking your head in the sand? That it couldn't possibly be true. And I know this feeling because I convinced myself that this was all that there was for my life. This is all that was destined for me. Maybe it's your depression and anxiety. Is that worth it? Because change is even scarier. So maybe we choose the depression and anxiety subconsciously over the change, because experiencing more of what you're going through or experiencing that change, is that scarier than your depression and anxiety? These are the questions that you now get to ask yourself and really get to sink into. Because this is what happens when we're at a rock bottom. For the woman, it can feel like knowing she needs to leave a toxic marriage. She's scared to move out of the house because she knows that she actually needs to, and she knows that her soul is dying. She's still living there, but doesn't want to be there anymore, but forcing herself to just stick it out. It's sticking to showing up every day in that toxic job where you overwork, have a shitty pay, where you're a slave to the system. Maybe your boss is a bully, but hey, you need the money, right? Maybe, like me, at some point, you're influencing. You're being seen by who and for what, but you're still feeling so disconnected from who you are. You're literally selling your soul for pittance and convincing yourself that you're actually being authentic, that you're only selling products that really you would promote anyway. Maybe your ego just loves the likes. Maybe you're really good at it. Maybe you need the money. You could be earning a lot of money, but how is your integrity? Are you proud of yourself? Or does it feel like your soul is being crushed and your worth is tied to performing? So you keep going. And this is what I'm talking about. The shame and the desperation start to creep in slowly. We completely disconnect so that we don't have to feel the shame and desperation of our current reality, whether it's at home, at work, in parenting. And it's easier to disconnect and stick your head in the sand than feel what your heart is trying to scream at you. And I speak for so many women in so many situations where they feel like they aren't enough, or they don't know how to break free of this cage, of this inauthentic way of living. But having convinced themselves that ignoring it feels okay for now, sometimes years will go by. Like it did for me. And it's years of convincing yourself and pretending everything's okay, all because we are too scared to tap into our heart. You can move no matter what situation you are in. If you're experiencing any of this, I want you to hear this. You can move. So the question is about how. How do you rebuild from the ground up? How do you find your authenticity? How do you lead with your heart? So your identity, your attachment to all the things that feed your ego, that validate the good girl in you, that identity, it actually has to die. I know that can sound really dramatic, but it does. This part of you is not going to just step aside and say, no worries, mate. Like, here's some space for you to love yourself. Like, here's some confidence. Like, here you go. No matter what, good luck. Good luck. See you later. No, I'm sorry, but the ego doesn't do that. It has kept you safe and feels like its job is to keep you where you're at. So it will grip on for you for dear life. I moved through this authenticity and I've been doing it for years. But interestingly, there was one little piece of my story. So I remember my journey started long before the retreat. And I think I spoke about that in episode 1. But the retreat that I went on, I had been drip feeding myself authenticity for a really long time. But the final piece to my puzzle ended up coming out of the retreat and doing a live on social media and just really showing up in my authenticity, who I was, what I wanted to share, what I didn't want to do anymore. And look, that was my piece of the puzzle because my life was in the media and my life was on social media. So that felt really authentic to me to come out there because it felt like a place where I was hiding. So the inauthenticity, it will always show up in places where you feel you have to hide, where you feel you can't fully show up as yourself. And that was my place. So from that moment on, I really started to set boundaries with myself and I really started to explore who I was. I did more learnings, more courses. I did more meditations. I studied myself deeper, all the things, the journaling, had the mentor, all the things that you can think of, right? I did. And I was really, really good at saying no. I was really good at when I was offered opportunities and jobs that weren't aligned, I literally said no. I stepped fully into my business. But there was this one piece of the puzzle that I didn't give up until about a month ago. And that was my relationship with Mazda. So part of my influencing and blogging world, I got a car, which was so awesome. I mean, this incredible Wanneroo Mazda gifted me a car to use for as long as I wanted. And I would just do a few posts every now and then. And I absolutely, authentically loved that car. And I loved that relationship. But what I was still doing was I was still hiding behind the reasons why I kept that car. And I only, as I say, know this now, but this is how the ego and this is how it can grip in for so long without you even noticing. My story was, yes, it's a free car. Yes, you're really being authentic. Yes, you're good at what you do. Yes, you're doing them a service. All those things. But what was happening subconsciously is my inauthenticity is like, you wouldn't be able to afford to buy a car. Like that is more debt that you don't need. Be scared, like your business will not support you. And all these other victim mentality, that was the little ego gnawing away at me. And as though I was able to give up everything else, say no to big jobs, big money, all that wasn't aligned, that was not in my business here at myself. This is the one thing that I couldn't. So when I finally cut those cords, when I finally realized that, Wanneroo Mazda, as much as I love and adore them, when I'm speaking about authenticity and moving forward and cutting everything out in our life that is not where we're meaning to go, this was the last piece of I believe right now it's the last piece of my puzzle. Maybe it's not. Maybe there are some other things that I'm still hiding. As I peel back the layers, I will share those with you, no problem. But for now, I think that was the last piece of my puzzle. So it was really important for me to step into my power, to step into my confidence, to say no to a relationship that I wasn't feeling aligned in anymore because I started to feel guilty. I started to feel shame that I wasn't posting and that I wasn't sharing as much as what I would have been expected of me, what would have felt authentic to me. So I allowed that shame and guilt to continue stirring inside my body. And this is how the ego tricks us. So it wasn't until we cut those cords, this amazing relief came over me. Yes, there was the fear that now I was going to have to buy the car and now I was going to have to, make more money and I was going to have to really stand on my own 2 feet and really be responsible just for myself. But there's something extremely liberating in that when you are backing your heart, when you are leading from a place that is void of shame and guilt and from empowerment. And that relationship, as I said, I think is the last piece of that puzzle. But I will keep you tuned if anything else comes up. So why is this so important? Why is this story so important? Because really what happens when we are being inauthentic, when we're allowing shame, guilt, fear to dictate our lives, it actually impacts every area of your life, your actions, your confidence, your worth, your relationships, your parenting, your career, your financial health, your physical health. It impacts everything. And even though I had that car and I was convincing myself I was doing the right thing, that shame and guilt would have been leaking out into other areas saying, you're not safe here. You're not safe to make more money. You're not safe to look after yourself. And your stories and projections and energy beliefs, what you think you deserve subconsciously, is all shaping how you are moving through and making choices in your current everyday life. Because the energy leaks, the inauthentic energy leaks. No matter how much you convince yourself it's not, it leaks. Now, if you're at rock bottom, if you are in a rut, I can safely say that there's something in your life that you are convinced yourself can't change, or you're scared to change, when your soul is really calling you for change. And it's in the ignoring of the red flags that we begin to spiral, that we begin to have the self-doubt, that we lack the confidence, that we bring on the feelings of anxiety. And the world that we live in tells you to start reaching outside of yourself, because that's what we do when we're in these places, when we're in these rock bottoms. We reach for the money, for the career, for the drink. We reach for the sex to make us feel good. We reach for the social status or the likes on your Facebook post or Instagram post, showing everyone that you're actually doing great. And that will fill you up, your ego up when you're at rock bottom for a little while, right? And even the mindset training and the business strategy coaching. This will help you a little bit, yes, but it's all feeding your ego. And none of it actually matters if you don't know who you are. If you are not feeding your heart, none of it will matter. It'll just be a temporary fix. Now, I don't want authenticity to be mixed up with purpose. So authenticity, it's who are you, and your purpose is why you do what you do. And as authenticity is the missing piece of the puzzle to begin with, the authenticity is how you set up your foundation. You can't actually do any of those things, anything in life, if you don't know who you are. The ego will be driving. The identity will be driving. Well, okay, you actually can. Let me correct myself there. You can do all of these things if you don't know who you are. It just means that it won't feed your soul. It won't be fulfilling. You will be maybe fulfilling a picture of what you think your life should be, but it's not filling your soul's desire. You'll be chasing validation through money, through status, through likes, to just feel good about yourself. And eventually the wheels start falling off and the soul starts to wake up and it goes, knock, knock, knock. Hello, I'm still here. It wants more from you. It actually wants connection. You aren't put in this lifetime to be a robot. You are here to experience joy and happiness, but, not from this place of being a good girl, from being told that you're good. We're here to experience this life from our hearts, from knowing that who you are and who you are being is perfect and is enough. You are enough. This all comes down to your authenticity. So this is where we start to build the foundations of who we are, so that as we rebuild from the rubble up, we get to do it with an unshakable inner strength. We need to fertilize the soil. We need to water the soil so that as we grow our tree, our roots are deep. So just so that we're clear on what authenticity is, it's who are you without all your pain, shame, and programming, or even your societal conditioning, which is where you were born, the place you grew up in, what was expected of you. Who is that person? I want to know who she is. What does she think about? What is really important to her? What are her values? How does she love? How does she hold herself? What does she actually believe in? That is your authenticity. If you can answer those questions, then we start to open up the doors of who you are. And it's not until we open those doors that we can start building from that place. I mean, how many of you feel like you know actually who you truly are? It is quite a rare thing for someone to say, me, I know who I am. People do tell me that they love my authenticity, all the time. And I feel like that's such a compliment. If you're a bit lost on who you are, how do we find that out? How do we actually take a step in this direction of your personal happiness and of your personal joy? Letting go and making space, or enough space, for us to actually explore this. Because what happens is who we are versus who we appear to be. There's this gap, right? And this gap can feel ginormous. So how do we get from one side of the river to the other? It can feel overwhelming. I guess it's easy to read, listen, and think ourselves into being better. But really stepping up and battling with your fear and taking the steps to change can be hard. But this is where we must face off with ourselves if we want to lead this fulfilling, joyful life. So let me break this next step, a little bit of a roadmap, down for you. This is not like a blueprint. This is not like a one size fits all, but there is a roadmap that will fit your personal path to figuring out who you are authentically and to support your healing through this process. A roadmap, I guess the blueprint side of things that really shits me at the moment is that everyone has different pain shame programming, right? So how is there a blueprint that is actually going to help everyone? It's not. The empowerment of our personal story and our personal journey is what will help you start to uncover your authenticity. So this is what I want to give you today. First of all, you have to be okay with feeling the fear and stepping into it and doing it anyway. There's no other way around it. When you see your fear, know that this is a sign of something we can work with to start stepping through. And this all comes down to self-awareness, right? Get really, really curious about yourself. We always sit and judge. We always sit back and go, you are the worst person. I can't believe you chose this. I can't believe you did this. But when we get curious, we start giving ourselves permission to go, I wonder why I do that. How have I shown up? Why have I shown up? Why have I reacted that way? And this will be your new best friend when it comes to your mindset. If authenticity is who are you without your programming, you get to ask yourself this question. What is my programming? What events happened to me that shaped the way that I'm showing up now? Now, I also know that we don't need to deep dive into every little aspect of our inner child and our experiences growing up, but there will be a few that will pop into your mind that are going to shape your memory. So trust that. If a memory or something comes up, trust that it's coming up for a reason. Okay. Maybe do it in a meditation or maybe do it in your journaling. But if something comes up, be in the practice of not attaching to it and feeling like you're judging the memory. Be in the practice of going, as we said before, curious about that memory, about that event. And I wonder what I've made that mean about me now. I wonder how this could be affecting me now. Well, that's really interesting. This is the way I would love you to commit talking to yourself. Because when we do it from that place, we're not attaching to the memory and going, I am this because that happened. I am that because of her. I am this because of him, because of my parents. While some, if not all of it, maybe have some truth to it, we are starting to own our own stories. So our emotional reactions to the events that happen to us, we may not have been able to control because we were young, and we may not be able to understand when we were young. We're looking back at a lens as an adult onto things that happened. And this is why it's really important that in this space we get curious and not judgmental. Because now we get to look at it and see it as, oh, I get that now, and not I am this way because of. We want to really detach from creating a victim or blame mentality that will, again, that's your ego keeping you stuck in your story. So curiosity is going to be your best friend with this. Then we start actually creating some boundaries and some space. So we know that things are not serving us. We know when events, people are not serving us. So giving yourself permission to create boundaries and space around that could simply look like a detox, could simply look like a clearing, a decluttering. But it's really important that you give yourself the opportunity to reset in this space, to reset from what you're going through. And this leads on, as we said, we have the self-awareness piece, right? And now we are having the boundaries. Once we become aware of what is not serving us, we can start creating boundaries so that we can give ourselves an opportunity to be moving forward in an authentic direction, in our authentic space. If you know someone is toxic, what boundaries can you put around that? If you know that you can feel your body react and you don't know how to say no, what boundary can you put on yourself around that? We need to create space so that we can feel clearer. We can get rid of the overwhelm so that we can actually see through a different lens. You can imagine when everything is full in your life, when you are tightly knit and stuck in your cage, there's no way to see out of that because we are programmed and robotic, just surviving every single day. So ask yourself, what boundaries and space can I create right now in my life that I can start to clear a little bit of the energy, to give myself an opportunity to see things a little bit differently, to give my heart an opportunity to start whispering to me. What could that look like for you right now in your current reality? The next thing is actual repetition and a commitment to yourself. Creating the space, being self-aware, putting the boundaries, understanding your red flags, listening to your heart, following your intuition. It takes commitment and it takes repetition. We commit to listening to our intuition, even if it's just whispers at the beginning, and we repeat it, we create habits, and we commit over and over again. Life is going to life. Things are going to get hard. Sometimes things are going to get easy, but if the one commitment you can make to yourself is to continuously listen to the calling of your heart, to say no when things don't serve me, to try and lead from that place, the habits that you will form will start serving you and it will become easier. You can't just do this once and think, yay, I'm done, because there will be tests. Life will life. You have to make the commitment to continuously step up and step in over and over again, even and especially when it's hard. So here's the truth. You can't think your way into this transformation. You really do have to feel it. You have to embody it. You have to choose it. You have to live it. And that's the part no one really wants to sell you. They don't want to sell you on this is the work, because no one wants to do work, right? And it's not fast. It's not a quick fix. It's not easy. It's real. But this is actually, authenticity is about self-mastery. It's about claiming your personal joy, owning your habits, taking responsibility for your happiness in your life. Not just when the money rolls in or when your body looks like a certain way or when you've got the marriage or when you're in the house, when you're successful at work, not when they finally validate you, but it's now. It's in the mess. The rebuild is now. It's in the moment you decide, I am done abandoning myself. Because here's the thing, right? A great, fulfilling life is not built by accident. You're not just going to fall into it. It is built on purpose. And sometimes it takes a rebuild from the rubble up, from brick by brick, breath by breath, with truth and commitment in every single layer that you're working in. And if you're standing in your breakdown or your ashes or your rubble right now, I just want to say, I see you. I have been there. I know how that feels. Now, I have actually created something which is just a free download, which will walk you through some steps of authenticity and rebuilding. It's not fluffy. It's the same process that I started to use when I was finding my way back to myself. It will give you a really beautiful insight into a little window into your soul, a little window into what you actually love and what lights you up. So I'll put that link below. And if you want to have a look, just download it, comment, like it, let me know how it goes. But I really hope for you that it sparks something in you that says, hey, like this is my turn. I am going to start leading with my heart. I know that it's scary. I also know that my whole life doesn't have to fall down around me for this to happen. I can still choose myself in any moment, even if it's just pinch by pinch. But choosing yourself will be the biggest gift that you give to yourself and to those around you. So give it a go, I promise.